Hello and welcome. This is Angie with theCountryChiccottage.net. So today we're going to talk about the IKONART Custom Stencil Kit. So it's a big one. So they actually sent me this kit. Otherwise, they're not paying for the video or for the product review. And what the stencil kit does is allows you to make custom silk screens easily. So we're going to first open up the box, see what's inside. And we're going to give the product a try, see how to make a stencil, and maybe try a few different ways to make one, see which way's better, which way works the best, and a few different products with the stencil itself, like a few different paints and inks and that type of thing. So, IKONART Stencil Kit. I will also have a link for the kit itself in the description for this video so you can head there and see it. Can't find the link, just drop a comment and I will get it for you. So let's open up this big box, see what's inside. Alright, so here's that big box I just showed you, and we're going to open it up and see what's inside. This is also the first time that I'm opening it as well. Alright, so we have another box, so let's open that first. So this looks like the black light itself, and then there's a user manual with it. So there's the black light. And then there's some inkjet printer film. Looks like it's 8.5 by 11 and 5 sheets of it. There are quick step guide and a user guide. And it looks like there's like descriptions of what's included here. So we have like an arm for the stand. There's a squeegee to squeegee across, I would say. It looks like a clipboard, so I'm going to say this would be to hold everything still as you are exposing it. And then there's also some laser print film, so 5 sheets of it. So it looks like 5 sheets for inkjet, 5 sheets for laser. And then there is matte black cardboard, so we'll find out what this is for. And here is the photosensitive film, and it comes in this package that is the silver. And it looks like it feels like there's a zipper on this end, so it's resealable because you do not want to expose that to light. And then the stand base is in the bottom. And I think that's it. Alright, so next up, let's follow this quick setup guide and let's actually put the product together. And then I'll kind of show you that, and then we can start actually making some silk screens. Alright, so here are all the pieces to put together the base. Now, my plan is to save the box and disassemble it just like this, pop it in the box when it's not in use. So if you're not going to use it a lot, I think you would definitely want to save the box. That's the first thing. And then we're just going to follow this quick setup guide to set everything up. So the first thing we need to do, we want to turn this base over to the back and put on these bumpers, so that just helps protect your table. So I'm going to put one in each corner. Then we're going to take one of these screws and we're going to put it through the hole that is on one side. Then we're going to flip the entire thing over. So there's our screw right there. It also comes with an Allen wrench for the screw, so you don't even have to worry about that. And then we're going to put this stand arm on top of the screw. Looks like both ends are the same, so it's not going to matter. And we're going to screw that down. And then you can use the Allen wrench to tighten it up. And I'm just tightening with the Allen wrench a little. The next step is to put this light arm on top of the stand arm. So the stand arm kind of fits in this larger hole. So one side has a larger hole, and you just put that inside. And then it just needs to face the same way as your base. And then we can just add the screw to the top. All the screws are actually the same size, which I like. Now I don't have to worry about which screw goes where. There's actually 3 screws and a wing nut, so not hard to put together at all. Alright, now we need to actually put the light itself on the arm we just added to the base. Alright, so here's the light, and it actually has a arm already attached. So you just fold that out, and now you have an arm that can attach to the arm we just put here. And we just need to put 1 screw through the light and through the hole in the arm, and add the wing nut to the top, and then just use the Allen wrench along with the wing nut and tighten it up. And I think that's it. So that's it. So this machine itself is together. We're ready to plug it up and start exposing some screens. So now let's walk through the steps in the user guide of how to make silk screens themselves. See how easy that is? So far so good. First, let's take a look at the inkjet printer film. So this is what I'm going to use. Looks like it's recommended, so I'm not going to use the laser version. You open this package, and the film itself is protected by some cardboard, and then there are 5 sheets inside. So the sheets themselves look clear, but it's actually a film. So what you want to do is design some artwork, mirror it, and then run this through your inkjet printer. And you can actually cut this. So if I just wanted to do a small design, I could actually cut out once it's printed, and then cut out just something that's slightly larger than the design itself, and then reuse the rest of it later. So that's one way to save the film and not use it all at once. Alright, so when printing on your film, you're going to want to make sure that it's 100% black artwork, and if you can adjust your printer, make sure you adjust your printer to be all black ink. And then you're going to want to print on the emulsion side. So it's basically not the shiny side. So there's a kind of a shiny and a matte side. So that would be the difference between the 2 sides. So you want to print the artwork on the emulsion side, not the shiny side. So now I'm going to print onto this film. Okay, this is my print all printed onto the material. So I also printed the same thing on white as a test, just on a piece of copy paper. And I just did that to see where it would be, and then I moved it over before I printed here so I wouldn't waste any of the film. Now, if you print on the wrong side, so if you have trouble telling the sides apart, if you print on the wrong side, the ink will not dry. So I printed on the wrong side the first time, used the same thing, because I was able to just wash it off with a wipe and then dry the sheet back off and then run it back through my printer. So now what I'm hoping is when I touch the edge of this, now it's dry. So now I'm going to leave a little around the edge, and there's my printed piece ready to be exposed. Now for the rest of this video I'm going to be using the photosensitive film, so I'm going to have to dim the lights a little bit. So the rest of the video may be fairly dark. I hope to lighten it enough in editing where you can see it, but I will need to, if you're at home, I would suggest just in a dimly lit room, maybe with the curtains closed, because that's what I'm going to do to kind of simulate what anyone would do. So no one would have bright studio lights actually going for actually using this at home. So for the rest of the video I'm going to close the curtains, turn off the studio lights, and do it like that. But I will be doing it in conditions that are similar to your home, so you can be sure that this will work at home if it works for me. So let's see what happens. Alright, my stand is set up, the stand we put together, and then the matte black cardboard piece that is included in the kit, we're putting that on top of the stand. So that minimizes the reflection off the base. Now we're going to open the photosensitive material. So I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to carefully open the photosensitive pack because I want to reuse it. So I'm just going to use my scissors across this portion. And I'm going to use the scissors and I'm going to cut this to about the size of the film piece I just made. And that way I won't waste this either. So in this pack, you should have a clear sheet. And I'm going to pull that out now first. So the clear sheet we're going to use on top of everything. And then the photosensitive film will be blue. So it looks something like that. And I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to put the rest of this back in this pouch. And then you have matte black cardboard, the photosensitive film shiny side down, this piece on top where I can read the everything, so it would be the shiny side up or the side you did not print on up, and then the clear piece. And then I'm going to turn on this light and we're going to expose it for 35 seconds, which is how long you do for inkjet, so be sure to follow the instructions there. Okay, my 35 seconds is up, so I'm going to turn off the light. Then I'm going to remove the clear piece. I'm going to remove my image. And you actually won't be able to see anything on the film quite yet. We're going to put it on this clipboard that's included. And then we're going to go downstairs to the sink and start rinsing this out, and I'll film down there as well. Alright, I'm now downstairs in the sink, and you're going to use warm water. The first thing we're going to do is get the clipboard portion wet a little bit so nothing sticks to it. And then I'm going to use my sprayer and start spraying loose all those bits that are in the silk screen. So I can already see the image. You might not be able to on the screen, but I can already see the image. So you can already start seeing that appearing on the silk screen. So I'll just continue to work until I feel like it's clean enough. So I just started working this with a sponge, and it's already getting much better. So the areas where the image are kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Like, they're sticky to the touch or rubbery to the touch, and the rest of it is not. So I'm just washing away and scrubbing away those sticky areas with warm water and a scrub sponge, and you can see everything is getting much better now. Alright, so here it is after I completely washed it out, or at least I think it's good, so we're going to find out. So I'm just kind of drying it off a little bit before I put it back on this cardboard piece. Alright, and now this needs to dry completely, so you can hang it up to dry. And it's actually already starting to come off of the film that it's on. I'm going to leave it on there until I'm sure everything is dry. And then we are going to do another exposure with the light to make this permanent. So if you want to make it reusable, you definitely want to do the post exposure, so an exposure a second time. There is a process where I can air dry this as well, so if I didn't want to wait the 45 minutes for it to dry, I could just air dry it with a hair dryer, and I may do that as well. So you can follow either procedure, and both are included in your instruction booklet. So now I have this portion completely dry, and I'm going to put it right back on the black cardboard. So the black cardboard is still on there, but I don't have to put anything on the top. And then I turn this on for 60 seconds, and that just sets my design. I'm setting my timer for 60 seconds, and then I'm going to turn the light on. Alright, so my 60 seconds are up. I'm going to go ahead and turn that light off. Now this is actually ready to use, so we're going to try it on a project and just see what happens. Alright, studio lights are back on and we are ready to see what happens when we use this on a project. So I'm going to do some tea towels, and I am going to use the Fabric Creations Soft Fabric Ink, and we'll just use, let's use a blue. So I'm going to use a blue. I'm going to use this squeegee that came with the kit. And then we'll also need something so the paint doesn't bleed through. And I'm just going to use some cardstock. So I'm going to take the cardstock, I'm going to put it under the tea towel. And then these are actually self-adhesive. So you can start peeling them off this backing. And but I do want to do one thing first. So you need to be able to tell the front from the back of the backing paper. So I'm going to write back on the back of my stencil, and that way I know to put it on this side when I put it back on. So if we can get this. Okay, so now you can see it just peels from this backing paper and it's completely self-adhesive. So not only is it a silk screen, but it's also a self-adhesive silk screen. Alright, now I'm going to put this about in the center of this tea towel. And I'm going to press it down. And then I'm going to use the fabric ink. So I'm going to use fabric ink on this one, and I may use like some fabric paints and some other things on some of the other ones. So I'm going to, if this one works, which so far so good, I'm going to do some more of the silk screens, and I'm going to make some more towels, maybe with some different types of mediums, so you can see how each one works with the silk screen. So we're just going to put some up at the top, which is why we left some of the extra room around. You can also put painter's tape around the outside of this if you're nervous about getting any on your towel. But I'm going to try it without that. And then we're just going to pull it across the silk screen. And then I probably put too much on there. So silk screen does not take much at all. So I'm going to get some of the excess off with a couple of swipes. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to pull the silk screen up, and this is the moment of truth, y'all. Did it work? It is so perfect. So this one was a fairly intricate design, and I wasn't sure if it would work, and it worked perfectly. You can see the quote, everything looks gorgeous. You will need to follow whatever instructions are on the back of the paint you're using. So for this one, I need to allow it to dry for 24 hours, and then you need to heat set it. So be sure to do that to make sure your design is permanent, but otherwise, super impressed with the stencil I was able to make. So now, let's make a few more silk screens and do some more experiments. Now it's time to clean our stencil. So the same clipboard that I used before, and I'm just going to spray some water on it. And you can definitely do this at a sink, but this is just, make sure that this doesn't stick to there, and you can actually hold it down with that clip if you want. And we're just going to spray some water over the surface, and then we can just scrub, make sure everything's removed, and you can see the ink coming off there. You just want to be sure not to stretch or distort anything while it's wet. And then I'm going to use this same squeegee. I'm going to use the same squeegee and sort of get a lot of that water off. And then I can use a towel to dry that up. You can also rinse the back or scrub the back as well. Everything looks pretty clean on it from what I've already done. So I'm just going to squeegee that off as well. Making sure I have all excess water off. And then I'm just going to put this face down, being sure not to stretch it. And then remember, I marked this as back, so I can just add that right to the back of there. I'll flip that over, make sure it's down without any bubbles. And now we want to let that dry for like 30-40 minutes before we use it again. But the adhesive should come back on it. If you are using it and you're having a hard time getting the adhesive back, just kind of gently blot the adhesive side with a damp cloth, and the moisture should bring the adhesive back a little bit. So you can do that as well. But if you apply too much moisture, then you'll have to repeat the same procedure and dry it off. But these are completely reusable, and I can make as many towels as I would like. Okay, this is the towel I made live, so you watched me make that one with the fabric ink from Fabric Creations from Plaid. I really liked the way this one did on the towel, and I like the stencil. So I thought, why not experiment with a few more fabric projects? Now, these silk screens can be used on any surface. So you can use them on wood, you can use them on metal, anywhere you want, with a variety of craft paints. But I am going to experiment with different stencils just on fabric with different paints just for this video. If you want to see more, then leave a comment below with what you'd like me to see experiment on, and I might do another video. And all the cut files, including this one, are linked in the description for this video, so be sure to check those out as well. So the second one was Chop It Like It's Hot. So here is the silk screen, here is the towel. I used Folk Art multi-surface paint, which can be used on fabric as well. So it's like a little thicker than the fabric ink. Still did really well. Overall, I really liked this one. I think it's about equal to the fabric ink, just depending on which one you wanted to buy. For me, the fabric ink worked a little bit better, so if you were going to purchase one for fabric, that's the one I would get. Right, next one is this Whip It silk screen. Did it on this towel, and I did this one with some fabric paint. So this is So Soft fabric paint from IKONART. I wasn't as impressed. So this one was even thicker than the other ones, and I think the thicker the paint got, the less impressed I was with the transfer itself. So I would suggest if you have a thicker paint, either carefully use a brush to work it into all the nooks and crannies, or really go over it with your squeegee like 2-3 times just to make sure that paint gets worked into all of the silkscreen. This next one is That's How I Roll, and I'm using Tester's Craft. It's just like a multi-surface paint, so you can use it on fabric or just about any surface. And I did work it in with the brush more, and I felt a little bit of it got kind of the letters bled together once I worked it with the brush too much. And then this is the only stencil I had do this, so you can see that little piece right there, that there's no longer blue. A little bit of the blue came off on the towel when I lifted it, and I just immediately took a rag and wiped it off, and I think it all came out. There may be a little bit left that I could keep wiping, but the silk screen itself wouldn't really be reusable unless I could find a way to cover that spot. So that was the only one I had do that. Not sure what I did wrong with this one, but just something to look out for is that it could come off a little bit, and once it starts doing that, you probably have to throw this away, and it would just be a single use. And might damage your project, just depending on if it comes off or not when you wipe it. And finally, we have Too Hot to Handle. So this one I put on a different towel just to illustrate a different surface, so it has kind of a different texture. Still worked perfectly. The silkscreen worked great. I used the fabric ink again in a different color, but this time I put the glitter over the top. So they have a fantasy glitter paint in the Fabric Creations line. So I did the ink and then directly with the glitter right over the top while the ink was still wet. Now, the big pieces of glitter don't go through the silkscreen. So the silkscreen itself, if you've never used a silkscreen before, there is a mesh here in this white area. So the glitter, the big pieces didn't go through the mesh, but the little pieces did. And you might not be able to see that on screen, but it's definitely a little sparkly and super cute. So this one I really liked. I should have just used some more fabric ink right in this area. That's the only area that's kind of messed up. So I would just suggest that when you're squeegeeing across, just absolutely make sure that you get enough fabric ink in all the places before you lift up. And I think it's just kind of a trial and error thing. The fabric ink works great with the silk screens. Multi-surface paint works pretty good. I did not have any luck with fabric paint. Like I said, it was pretty thick. So the thicker the paint, I think the more trouble you're going to have. But otherwise, silkscreen works great. Making the silkscreen is perfect, and then it's just perfecting putting it on your surface. But since they're reusable, you have plenty of time to perfect that. Can I just say how fun that was? So I tested another silkscreen maker years ago, and I hated it. It took forever for the silkscreen to expose. Most of the time they didn't work. These silkscreens are absolutely amazing. They're stunning, perfect, ready to go for a variety of projects. Now, we tested them with a variety of paints on fabric. You'd have to run a whole nother set of tests probably to find the best paint or ink for like wood or metal or something like that. I think this gives you a pretty good idea of the type of paint to look for when you're using your silkscreen. So the silkscreens themselves, super impressed with. And my projects, most of them turned out simply amazing. I'll be hanging this mason jar towel in my kitchen in a couple minutes. So thank y'all so much for joining me. Remember that IKONART actually sent me the machine to actually do the stencils and everything I needed to do the silk screens, but everything else is my own, so the opinions and everything are my own. It's definitely something that if you want to make a silk screen, definitely give it a try. If you are looking for something that you can use to make projects over and over and over again and replicate them, I definitely think that this is for you. Now, how many times can you use the silk screens? Like, that's going to be the question. So I've used similar silk screens like upwards of a dozen times. I don't see anything that would keep me from using these multiple times. I'm actually going to test, yeah, the adhesive sticky. This one is dried again since I've been playing with my silkscreen maker and making some more projects. So this one's dry and sticky again, so I don't see anything from keeping these from lasting at least that many times, and possibly more. So I think it's going to depend on how well you take care of them, what kind of projects you're putting them on, that type of thing. Being careful about not to stretch them is going to be really important, because once you stretch them, they're going to be useless. So making sure you don't stretch them when you're pulling them off the backing paper, when you're pulling them off your project, that type of thing. So that would be something to look out for to maximize the life. Cleaning them according to the instructions, putting them back on the backing paper, and storing them where they won't get bent or anything like that is going to be really critical to the success of using these over and over again. But I think you will be super happy actually with the quality of the silkscreen, and also happy with how your projects turn out. So for me, the Fabric Creations ink worked best. Second best was multi-surface paint, and then third was fabric paint, because the one I had was pretty thick. Now, are there different brands of fabric paint out there that are thinner and work better? Yes, probably. Drop a comment below. Tell us what you would try with these silk screens, what paint you would try, and heck, maybe I have some here and I'll give it a try on another video. I would also love to hear from you if you want to see these silk screens used on other projects. So wood, metal, that type of thing. What do you want to see me use these on? Comment below and tell me. And also, if you love this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and head to our YouTube channel, subscribe. You don't want to miss any of our videos. We do fun, crafty videos all the time. I love to experiment with things, obviously, because I just made 5 tea towels. So I love to experiment with things and see how they work. So if you want to make your silk screens, definitely check out the IKONART silk screen maker, and I think you will love it. So thank y'all so much for joining me today. Have any questions about this project? Ask them below. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.